In this video, we're going to try and get the horn working again. Okay, so the way the horn's wired up, normally on a Mark 1 Mini, you would have it's kind of like a clock spring, or the older version of a clock spring, inside the steering wheel, and then you'd use the button on the actual horn. But because this is actually a Mark II steering column, so it doesn't actually have all the parts necessarily to make this work correctly without just having a coil of wire, which I did try, and obviously after driving the car for a bit, it just failed that way. So I did actually always have, so this is a Leyland Mini. I don't know whether a Mark II actually had this same one. I'm pretty sure it was a bit different. But obviously this indicator has the switch for the high beam as well. So indicator left and right, and then press in to make the horn work. So that's actually never worked properly. Like when I put the car together, it actually did work for a bit, but then obviously the contacts inside here are no longer working. So the first step will be obviously just to change that indicator switch, and then we'll see how we go. I might actually try and pull it apart. Like, I didn't want to pull this apart until I've got a replacement, because it may just be the contacts inside there, but we'll pull it apart and have a look. Okay, so the first step we need to do is just remove all of this cowl, and there are a few screws to come out. Comes straight out. And just like that. Right, the next step of the process involves just taking this indicator stick off. That's not an issue, this is just a couple of screws. And then this wiring connects underneath, and it's going to be a bit of a fiddle because the heater's in the way now. So I don't know how much play I had on those terminals to reconnect them all, but that's going to be a little bit of a headache to do, just to make sure they all go in the right spot. I'll just show you the replacement part. So as I mentioned already, I'm assuming that this one is designed for a Leyland Mini, because I don't think the Mark II had this same switch, but I could be wrong. But because like the Mark I switch doesn't have the facility for the high beam low beam switch. That's actually on the floor, but this is actually a lot cheaper to buy than the original Mark I, and plus I haven't got the floor switch for the high beam. Okay, and the only thing I need to check first is the actual length of that, because I need to take off this connector and just have the standard connectors on all of those wires. But I need to make sure that is long enough, otherwise I might have to cut the old wire halfway and put the terminals there. But I'll have to just compare it and see. So if you have a look here, I've got these lined up side by side. If you look down this way, the newer one is significantly shorter than the older one on there. So it's likely I'm going to have to just cut into this and have the joiners under here, maybe do something like that. At least they're accessible here, but because otherwise there's no other way. So I may do it that way, because then that way there is a bit more room than what is there at the moment, because I don't want to pull down on that because things will get disconnected. And hopefully the wiring should all be the same colours. The colours should be the same. But that's the least of my worries. I can just get a multimeter, set it to resistance or to measure ohms, and then we can troubleshoot it that way. So I think I'll take the old one off. Alright, so I decided to pull out the steering column. You undo the bolt down the bottom here, and then just the ones for the bracket there. The reason why, because I thought I'd pull that out. One, it's going to make the wiring maybe a little bit easier, but I'll just show you the issue. So there was a bit of play like down this end. Obviously not that much, because what is in there is this bit of padding that sort of sits in there, but you can sort of see that's the old one, how it's getting pretty flat. That's a newer one here, so it's nice and thick. So that actually just slides into here. Bring that down a bit, and it stays in that section here because of this groove in the actual column. It prevents it obviously from sliding all the way. So hopefully that will like reduce a bit of that wobble at that end. So that just pretty much slides in. So I'll give that a go. Okay, so just do initial test. That's all connected up. We'll do the horn. That works fine. Don't know what happened there. I'm just gonna disconnect that because it's gonna. It's been a few hours later now. Had some issues with the wiring. So what I actually ended up doing is taking that connector off because I thought for some reason that something is shorting out. What I actually turned out to be, I managed just to take the end off the horn button because the horn kept on sounding, and then I had the meter connected up to it just to work out what the problem was. But what the actual issue is, so that piece of brass at the end there, when you press the horn button in, so obviously that moves down, and then those two metal contacts that allow the horn to touch like that, and you can see there the reading. And what actually was happening was this little piece here, I'll just take that off just so you can see how that's loose. That just comes straight off. So that should in fact be possibly glued into that piece just so it won't move. And it was sort of slightly out like that, so whenever I move the assembly, the little brass piece is loose, and then you tip the whole assembly, and then of course that brass would move down and then touch those and cause the horn to go off when it shouldn't. Okay, so it's the next day now. I had issues with that indicator switch. The actual horn mechanism, or the components inside the actual stalk which activate the horn, they're all faulty. So I've ordered another switch. They'll hopefully come tomorrow. And what I need to do now, I've just got the steering wheel column sitting back in place where it needs to go. I just need to bolt the bolts for this section bracket back in there, and down the bottom as well. That bolt needs to go in. Hopefully I've got it back in the exact same position, but it's not a major issue if I need to adjust that again. But it should be in the exact same position. The wheels are on stands, so they haven't been rotating or turning left and right. So I'm not going to record that, but I'll just, the bolts go in through the top here, and then bolt underneath, and then one down the bottom. So I'll get that bit done ready, and then hopefully tomorrow I'm just putting it all back together. So that is all fine, because I thought there might have been an issue with these wiring, and when they were in that loom they were sort of touching side by side, but with all the heat shrinking on there, that insulates them all, so that wasn't the issue. It's just the actual switch. Alright, so I'll get this bolted in and then we'll catch up again tomorrow. Okay, welcome back. It's another day. What I actually did, I ordered another assembly, because the one I ordered, the horn button is not how it should be. So this time around, I bought one from Classic Motoring. There's their website there, classicmotoring.net. They're based in Canberra. It only took a couple of days for it to come. They sent this via express post. So the original one I purchased was a Lucas, so that's a genuine Lucas one. It says in there, I don't know if you can see that, Lucas, England. But obviously the actual button inside, it is just, the way it's manufactured, obviously they're probably made very cheaply and quickly. But this one here is a aftermarket brand, so there's no brand on it. And the quality seems like as good, but so that's what I'm yet to test. I'll just make sure all of those connections work on there. I'll put on multimeter onto it. Horn seems okay. This one, it used to rattle, where this one here, it sounds nice and tidy and there's no sound happening in there. So I'll just do some tests to make sure that's okay before I fit it. Okay, so I've got all that connected up now. I just need to neaten that up a bit. But everything appears to be okay. Indicator. Turn left. The lights, you can sort of see maybe, yeah, that seems to be doing something. And then of course the horn as well. That works fine. What I will do, I'll just disconnect the horn wires for now, just because I don't want to upset the neighbours and all of that, just in case things go wrong and contacts touch where they shouldn't. Alright, and then I'll just neaten up the cabling there with some electrical tape and cable ties, and then get the shroud back on that steering wheel column. Okay, so that steering wheel shroud is all back together now. That seems to be good. I've just fixed up the wiring and just used some cable ties to hold it in place, even though they are not what we should be using, but I'd rather just put something that I know will be secure. So that's keeping the cable all in there nicely. Everything works okay. So yeah, so when you get those parts, it's a bit annoying that the Lucas one was a bit inferior compared to the third party one, but I'll just shout out these guys again, Classic Mini Spares. They don't have a huge amount of parts, but they've got most bits and pieces, but not everything. But still, they have saved the day for me. Hopefully you had a bit of an idea of how to pull apart that and change over the indicator stalk. So I'll leave it there. Thanks for watching my videos.